Good day, we are here to discuss the art of pigeon feeding with expert pigeon fancier Isak Potgieter at his wonderful pigeon facility in Durbanville, Cape Town. Isak, let's talk about your background.
The background I have is a very long one. It's from 11 years age. I'm now 56 years old, so it's about 45 years of pigeon racing background. I spent from 2006 until 2012, I spent abroad racing pigeons in Belgium with the one idea of going to learn as much as I possibly can about pigeon racing, pigeon feeding and so on. It started in the early 2000s when my eldest son was involved in nutrition, personal people nutrition, human nutrition and exercise in Stellenbosch University, and I took whatever textbooks he had at that stage and involved myself in finding out more about what makes a pigeon tick or what makes a human tick, and then obviously transferring that to what makes a pigeon tick. I think that's one of the biggest issues, is to educate people to find out more about how the pigeon works, how the muscle structures work and so on.
What would you say is the biggest problem that fanciers face with the feeding of their pigeons?
I think the biggest problem that fanciers have is to understand how to feed, what to feed, how much to feed and when to feed. There's so many products on the market, there's so many different types of mixes, and some of them you can have success on, but I think they need to understand exactly what the how the feed is made up and what types of feeds are required to make a pigeon fly successfully.
Please give us a brief explanation in regards to the muscle structure of the pigeon.
I spent many hours at Ghent University talking to professors and animal nutritionists there, and that's one of the few universities in the world that actually specialize on pigeon racing. And it was discovered that a pigeon's muscle structure is made up of 15% white muscle cells and 85% red muscle cells. Now that's very important from a nutrition point of view, because the carbohydrate part of the mix feeds initially for the first hours racing, feeds the white muscle cells, sometimes called twitch cells, and then a pigeon also races for that first hour at approximately 15 kilometers per hour faster than he does when he switches over onto the red muscle cells. 85% of the pigeon's muscle structure is made up of red muscle cells, and these are fed mainly with fatty acids and fats which need to be metabolized. The red muscle cells, it was found out and it was discovered that 3.4 grams of fat is required to transport the pigeon for every hour's racing. So that's really a key situation for racing, not only short distances but also long distance racing.
Now let's go to your board to chat about the feed pyramid. Tell me a bit more about the feeding pyramid.
The feeding pyramid is an old basic way of telling people what a human or an animal should be fed. Basically, it's in 5 sections. You have a carbohydrate section, you have a protein section, you have a fat section, you have a moisture section, and then you have at the top you have your minerals as well as your vitamins. Okay, that makes up the feeding pyramid. Normal seed mixtures also have that as their contents. When pigeon fanciers normally feed a seed mixture, you can base it on normally 4 parts times maize and 1 part peas. That's the traditional mixture that guys normally race on. That does not facilitate racing a pigeon every week, continually, over whatever distance. And that's why the pellets have been formulated so that we can actually have a look at that full spectrum, that full pyramid, and in particular the protein side of it. Pellets are made up of approximately 50% soya protein, as well as 50% protein from animal origin. The amino acid profile of that combination far exceeds the 1P fed normally on a seed mixture. Further, the animal protein content there is assimilated by the pigeon within 4 hours of it being fed. The P fed there takes up to 72 hours to be processed by the pigeon and assimilated into the cells and into the pigeon system. That has a huge boon for pigeon keeping. Over and above that, we have minerals and vitamins added into the pellet, which allows a daily intake of vitamins and minerals. Normally, pigeons being fed on this type of mixture, the minerals and vitamins would have to be added over and above the normal, and that costs money. And when you put vitamins into a bowl of water, within an hour you might as well throw it away. In fact, it can become toxic. Our pellet, the 3 different types of pellets have the carbohydrates in various quantities. The racing one has a carbohydrate content of 70%. The pre-flight has 77%. So we take care of that. The carbohydrate seeds that we use in our mixture, which are ground up, are made up of maize, rice, and white sorghum. The combination of these 3 far outdoes feeding only maize. We all know a guy that used to write books in the old days in the UK was called Oldhand, and his slogan has always been, "He who masters the art of feeding masters the art of pigeon racing." And I think that's where most pigeon fanciers are set aside. I'd say a good 95% of pigeon fanciers are really all over the field when it comes to feeding. The solution, I believe, and the future of pigeon racing will be in the form of an extruded pellet, giving you the benefits of nutraceuticals, organic acids, mycotoxin binders, all within a well-balanced feed. The benefits that I've just mentioned are available in the product called PNP, which stands for Pigeon Nutritional Pellets.
What other benefits does a pellet have over grain mixtures?
A further benefit of the pellets is that we dose it with a good portion of organic acids. In this case, we use an acid called butyric acid, which is the new phase in pigeon world. The organic acid allows the pigeon to not carry E. coli and Salmonella. It keeps those 2 bacteria out of the pigeon system. It also has the benefit of growing the villi inside the intestinal tract. The villi are little nodules that grow in the intestinal tract. By growing the surface area, the uptake of nutrients is enhanced 2-fold.
Who manufactures these pellets?
The pellets are manufactured by a company called Abergold in Hermanus. Abergold is in the abalone industry. They are noted on the stock exchange. They invested about a year and a half ago approximately 40 million rand in a plant to ensure that they have proper feed at their abalone farm. It's a multi-million rand company, and they export the abalone all over the world. They have found that by grinding up and milling the ingredients to a micron size of 0.003, they have found that by grinding up the raw materials to a micron size of 0.03, which incidentally is the best size particle to have in any feed, and especially abalone feed, but in this case it will be the same into pigeon feed. They can actually get a far superior product compared to other factories that are not able to grind up to that micron. Abagold has a subsidiary company called SA Feeds, which specializes in the manufacturing of abalone feed and other specialty feeds. The capacity at the factory is approximately 1,000 tons per month, and they are very well placed checking incoming stock, incoming raw materials. They have a HACCP GMP process ensuring that the quality of what comes in and obviously what goes out of the factory is up to international standards.
What types of pellets are there?
We've brought on 3 different types of pellets onto the market. The one is a breeding pellet, which has 18% protein, which is important to the pigeon. I've found from personal experience that at a level of 18%, the fancier can raise in excess of 4 rounds of babies. The feather on the pigeons and on the youngsters, the bone structure and the muscle content of babies at 4 weeks is quite fantastic. We are currently obviously running the racing pellet as well as a pre-flight energy pellet. The racing pellet has a protein content of 13%. It has a cereal content of 70%, which feeds the carbohydrates, which I earlier spoke about the first hour's racing. That feeds is more than sufficient to feed the pigeon for its first hour's requirement. And then obviously the fat content in the racing pellet is a little bit less than the pre-flight pellet, and the idea is to feed the racing pellet early part of the week and the pre-flight pellet towards the end of the week.
Why are the proteins that are used in these pellets so important?
It has been researched and found that the type of protein used in all animal feeds is very, very important. Our products have at least, in fact, 60% of the protein content is of animal origin. And it has been found that the animal origin is very important to a pigeon. Within 4 hours of eating a product that contains animal protein, the protein content or the amino acid in the protein is assimilated by the pigeon.
What is the manufacturing process?
The manufacturing process is that of grinding up, milling it, like I said previously, to a very, very fine micron size, all the ingredients. The ingredients are then cooked, which allows the starch part of the pellet to explode, and after cooling it down, it is bound and is far readily absorbed by the pigeon than a normal mixture. The extrusion process also is very important, because every single pellet, every single grain in the pellet is exactly the same as the next one. And it is a fact that when people feed grain mixtures, the grain mixtures are distributed or put into the feeding trough, and your pigeon standing there is then eating whatever is in front of him. It may be that he eats 8 pieces of maize and 2 peas, or it may also be that he eats 6 maize and 4 peas, or 2 maize and 8 peas, which is not conducive for proper feeding. By feeding the pellet, the whole product is homogenized, and each grain is exactly the same as the next grain, making sure that you feed a balanced feed.
Can you tell us about the conversion rate of feed?
The conversion rate is the speed in which feed is assimilated by the animal. In this case, the speed of which a pellet is assimilated by the pigeon is far faster than eating a normal grain mix. So that is very important. The pigeon needs to get in as much goodness from a feed as quickly as possible.
Why is the gastrointestinal tract so important?
The gastrointestinal tract of a pigeon, I think, is underestimated by a lot of fanciers. The old saying goes, in human beings, you are what you eat. And certainly with a pigeon, that is the case. It needs to be kept clean, it needs to be kept efficient, it needs to be looked after continually. By feeding these pellets, you will absolutely get that. The organic acid portion of that pellet has been set so that it helps with E. coli, it helps with salmonella. It also, I've mentioned before, the growing of the surface area and the villi. The butyric acid is actually an encapsulated product, which means that it goes throughout the whole intestinal tract. A lot of products have had similar effects, but they only treat like the first third of the intestinal tract. And it's important that the whole intestinal tract gets done, and obviously the encapsulated butyric acid performs that duty.
How would you use the pellets in the racing season?
The pellets in the racing season have been formulated to there are two types. The one is the plain racing pellet, which is in the red bag, and or the red label, and the other one is the yellow label, which is a pre-flight energy pellet. The idea is, with the higher protein content in the racing pellet, you would feed that on return, as much as the animal can take in, as much as the pigeon can absorb. Thereafter, you depending on the hardness of the race, if it was a very hard race, you may have to feed the pellets another feeding or another 2 feedings. Then you go over onto a mixture of half pellets and half sunflower seed. The sunflower seed is there to make sure that the pigeon has sufficient fats. It is also there to ensure that the fiber content of the non-dehusked sunflower, the whole sunflower seed, treats the intestinal tract and scrubs it out. It has a scrubbing effect, a washing effect, which is also conducive when you start feeding the pre-flight energy product, because then the pigeon can take whatever is in that product into the system a whole lot more. The pre-flight pellet has been formulated. It has a double dose of fats, which assists in obviously the feeding of fats for the red muscle cells. It also has a double dosage of all the vitamin B vitamins, which are all your energy vitamins, including biotin. It's conducive to feed the pre-flight energy mixture towards the end of the week. It has double the amount of fats. It has 10% more carbohydrates. It has all the vitamin B energy vitamins, including a double dosage of biotin. This ensures that your pigeon is fed properly prior to the event.
When are you launching these pellets?
The pellets are being launched as we speak. The product will be available countrywide within the next week or two. Just watch the website. We'll give you all the locations within the next week.
And what would the fancier pay for the pellets?
The idea is that the fancier will pay in the region of about 160, 170 Rand for 10 kilos. Obviously it's a little bit more expensive than the traditional pressed or compressed pellet, but the quality of the product, the way it has been manufactured, and the benefits it has far outweighs the price that could be saved by using other pellets.
Could we please have your contact details?
Contact details, my telephone number in South Africa is 021 979 2555. My cell phone number is 081 298 2052. Email address is izak at safeeds.co.za, and you can get all the detail along with this video on www.safeeds.co.za.